Hello, it's a privilege to come your way today. My name is Chris Odbebo, and on today's edition of Taking the Lead, I will be discussing a vital topic titled The Unwritten Works of Jesus. The Unwritten Works of Jesus. The Gospel of John ends with a profound statement, a statement that stretches the imagination of an individual. John chapter 21, verse 25 reads, "And there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which if they were written every one, I suppose that the world itself would not contain the books that should be written." What that means is that the things we read of in the book of Matthew, in the book of Mark, in the book of Luke, and in the book of John is only a glimpse. It is not the full story. So if every singular act of Jesus were to be documented, John said the whole world would not be able to contain the books. That is a testimony, is a testament of how impactful his life was. It's a testament of how impactful his life was. But it also comes with a question. And the question is, how will your life read when it's all over? How would your life read when it's all over? You see, broadly, there are two kinds of works, the written and the unwritten. The written ones are those that people hear about, the ones that people applaud, the achievement that makes headline very bold and very loud. Yet there are also the unwritten works, those unseen acts of obedience, those unseen acts of mercy, those quiet acts of faithfulness, and those creativity that transform lives silently, yet very powerful. Many a times it is these unwritten works that actually have higher premium value. So now what are some of these unwritten works of Jesus? The first one are actually what I titled unrecorded miracles. Because when you look at the book of Matthew chapter 4 verse 24, for instance, the Bible said they brought unto him all that were sick and he healed them. The Bible did not specifically mention the number of the people that were sick. It just said they brought all. It didn't also give us details to the respective sicknesses. How many of them were blind? How many of them were lame? How many of them were deaf? How many of them actually had one peculiar type of illness? There was no specific profile, details of all of their illnesses, but the Bible said he healed them all. And there was even no record of the numbers. Probably there were hundreds or hundreds of thousands. The Bible did not specify, but he said it healed them all. In other words, only heaven has the full record of the details of these individuals, the details of the peculiarity of their illness, with the exception of a few where the Bible says, oh, this person has been ill for 12 years, but not enough details was given with respect to all of them. The second category of the unwritten works of Jesus is what I describe as unrecorded conversations. Jesus spoke to multitudes. He spoke to children, he spoke to widows, he spoke to farmers, he spoke to soldiers, he spoke to merchants, and he had extensive conversations with all of those people. And many of these exchanges were never documented. A classical example of one that was documented was that of the woman he met by the well of Jacob, the woman of Samaria. And the woman said, oh, I've met a man who told me all I ever did. So if we have the account of that woman, there would have been also several accounts of people that he had one-on-one conversation with, but there was no record of them. And from the testimony of that woman, you saw how that conversation brought about a definite change in her life. The third in the category of the unwritten works of Jesus is what I describe as unrecorded act of compassion. Jesus touched lepers. He wept with the sorrowful. He ate with sinners. He encouraged the forgotten. Now, not all of these acts of compassion were fully captured, yet it demonstrated love in all of these scenarios. The fourth among them is what I describe as unrecorded training moment. There were several training sessions that he had with people aside from his disciples. Only snippets of these training moments were actually captured. There was no record to the number of people that he had discussion with in groups, in clusters, or the number of times in which he met with those individuals. But then, all of these training moments were what equipped his disciples to be able to bring about a change in the world after he had transited. The truth is that the impact of a life cannot be fully written. It is lived, it is experienced, and multiplied through others. So every time you pray in the secret, every time you forgive when it's hard, every time you help someone quietly, every time you teach a child, every time you serve faithfully, you are engaged in one form of unwritten work or the other. And the destiny of a nation is not only in its history books, but equally in the unwritten sacrifices of those who build it, the prayers of mothers, the innovations of parliaments, of thinkers, the compassion of reformers. This act may not be recorded in the parliament, this act may not be in the public domain, but they are acknowledged and they have lasting impact on individuals, on society, on nations at large. And just like Jesus, your legacy can outlive your visibility. So let your life tell a story that no book can be sufficient to contain. Now, to the main thrust of the issue, and that would bring a question. How can you live a life that writes beyond the pages of books? How can you live a life that writes beyond the pages of books? I want to give you a number of answers to that question. The first one is to anchor your actions on purpose, not just on publicity. Jesus was not driven by fame, and that's why after every encounter he had with someone who received a miracle, he will always tell the person, don't tell anyone I did this. Don't tell anyone I did that. So his objective was not fame. His objective actually was impact. His influence could not be contained. When you serve from a pure heart, even though it is done in silence, your impact multiplies. The next way by which you can live beyond the pages of book is to invest in people, not just in project. Yes, it is good to invest in project because ultimately the people will benefit from the investment in those projects. However, it is more important that you focus on people. The reason is simple. Buildings will fade, books will close, but it is the people who have been so impacted that will carry your legacy forward. They are the ones that will carry your legacy forward. A very good example is Jesus. He poured his life into 12 men, and these 12 men took that impact to the next level. And we are still beneficiaries of the next level of the impact of these 12 men and those that succeeded them and those that succeeded those who succeeded them. That's the reality. So your greatest unwritten work will often walk on two legs. They will walk on two legs in those you served, on two legs in those you inspired, on two legs in those you mentored, on two legs in those you helped directly or indirectly. The third way by which you can live a life that writes beyond the pages of books is to live with eternity in view. The life that changes the world is one that sees beyond time, such that your daily obedience becomes a divine ink on the scroll of eternity. Do you realize that heaven's library still hold volumes of Jesus' work? And some of this work are still being written. being written through you, being written through I, being written through you and I. So we are beneficiaries of his work. And as beneficiaries of his work, and we do what we are supposed to do, others benefit from the work we have done. And other people benefit from the work that those other people too have done. So you can therefore see a chain there, a chain of beneficiaries, a chain of beneficiaries, several people benefiting from what he did, and several other benefiting from what others did. And the effect goes a long, long way. So you can see that the volumes are still being written. The volumes are still being written, and I encourage you to join. I encourage you to be a part of it. My prayer is that nations will read from your life a story of faith, a story of redemption, a story of innovation, and a story of hope. Contribute to that work and see your life getting better. Thank you for your time. God bless you.